What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Hope you guys all are having a good day. Hope you guys got some good plans for the weekend. NFL on Saturday, NFL on Sunday. Should be a really good weekend. A lot of prize pools up top, but joined by my two boys, Mangone, who I see all the time, but my boy, JT Hayes, looking fresh in the back. I got Winnie the Pooh I see in the background. JT, I haven't seen you, man. I don't know if it's last NBA season, last MLB season. Pretty sad, but man, you're always looking good as always. Love having you on the show. And I'm not the only one excited. We got Felix in chat. JT, let's fucking go. JT, love to see it. JT. The people are ready for JT's takes. I'm excited. What's going on, JT? How are you doing on this Friday? Good slate today too. So any initial thoughts?
Yeah, I couldn't be better this Friday. We were talking about this. By the way, people in chat, hit the like button for Titletown's birthday this week. Case you guys didn't know, fresh, young age of 24. And we were talking. I said, hey, Title, happy birthday. I haven't seen you in forever. We used to do shows all the time when we first started up RPS. It's been a little bit less lately. I'll take the blame for that on my travel schedule. You guys know I was away last couple of weeks, but it's good to see you. It's always good to see sweet Travis. I mean, a Friday isn't a Friday without seeing that sweet, sweet Travis's face. And I'm excited about this slate. We have some hefty chalk. Can I interest you in a 65% own Hassan Whiteside? I don't know about that. But you also noticed Winnie the Pooh is a new addition here. Winnie is one of my dog's toys. And I saw it there. It was laying on its side the other day. I was going to record something with Tambo. And I said, you know what? Let me turn Winnie upright and we'll get it going. So good to see you guys. Excited for this huge slate. Like you mentioned, a lot of big prize pools. We got in 888 with 250K up top on DraftKings and some good ones on FanDuel as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the Winnie the Pooh edition. Always good seeing your face. Should be a lot of fun. Excited to hear your takes. Yeah, Hassan Whiteside. I mean, there's a lot of injury news on the slate. A lot of chalk, concentrated plays that is going to be very overweight, but still a 9-game slate, so a bunch of ways to go. Mangone, how are you doing over there? I'm sorry. I mean, I had to stroke JT off a little bit. It's good seeing him. I see you all the time, Mangone, but you're always delivering winners. How are you doing today?
Good. Yeah, excited to be here with JT. I need some stories from the weekend in Montana or the week in Montana. What's your best story for the people? Like you told me that you had some good stories, so I need to hear about how couples weekend went. I just imagined you basically on that movie Couples Retreat, just away with a bunch of couples for the weekend, and it's just disaster. You wake up in the morning, you're like, man, it can't get worse than yesterday. It just keeps getting worse.
Yeah, so I'll give you the way the trip started out. So this has been. First of all, I had no involvement in the planning. It wasn't my idea to go to Montana in fucking December. It was pretty goddamn cold. But anyway, I'm a warm weather guy, but this is something my wife wants to do. The friends are going to this resort. So it's 3 days in Whitefish, Montana, and then 3 days near Missoula, Montana, right? Okay, fine, no problem. We're leaving. Our flight is 8 o'clock Monday morning, 2 days after Christmas. And we've got 2 flights, a flight to Minneapolis, and then a flight onward to Kalispell, Montana, which is near Whitefish. So I get up at 5 o'clock, set the alarm, boom, I jump out of bed because this is my wife's big Christmas trip. I'm ready to go. Go ahead, I put my contacts in, I'm getting ready to get in the shower. I come back to the bedroom. The flight's canceled. The flight's canceled. I was like, all right, which flight is canceled? It's the second leg. I said, look, the biggest part of this trip is the second part, right? That's the one you want. Yeah. She's like, well, what do we do? I said, well, you're on hold with Delta, right? Because I can hear the music. And she's like, it's a 7-hour wait time. I said, let's just go to the airport. We get a better shot at getting there from Minneapolis than we do from our bedroom. So we go to the airport, we switch flights. We got on a flight to Bozeman, Montana. We rented a car and we drove 5.5 hours to Kalispell, Whitefish, what have you. And we had a similar travel experience on the way back. So it was a long fucking week, man. I was glad to get back to Atlanta. And I guess I brought the weather with me because it was like 31 degrees here today.
Wow. Hey, so at least the big question was, was the wife satisfied? Was she happy with the whole trip? Wasn't your destination you would have picked and stuff like that, but was she happy? Is she satisfied for at least another year?
Yeah, for the most part. She was about as happy as she could be with all of the different travel issues that we experienced, including 10 hours in the Salt Lake City airport on the way back home. So it wasn't too bad.
All right, last question, JT. How many telescopes were used? We're over under 0.5. How many telescopes were used on this trip?
I mean, Holden was more interested in how many times we hit the bench. He was setting over unders.
That was a given. You knew he would bring that up for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I didn't see a lot of telescopes, but I did get to ride a fat tire bike in the snow in Montana, which I recommend because it was a good workout and it was really pretty view. And then after an hour, I decided I was frostbitten enough. I went back and had some nice, tasty alcoholic beverages.
I like it for sure. Yeah, I've been to Montana once, actually. Grandparents took out an extended family, know some people down there. So it was fun, like cousins. It was during the summer, though. It's like horseback riding, fly fishing, stuff like that. I'm not a big Montana stuff like that, but it was cool to get out there. I had problems on the way home from Wisconsin too. Parking brake went down, then they had to change my second flight and all that stuff. So, hey, traveling right now, if you're doing it, good luck to you. It's pretty tough out there. But JT, love the stories. That's enough of that, though. 9-game slate. Got to get in some basketball. We got our boys in chat. Ian, Nadesified, Being There, Noel Fan, Bono, Travis Duarte, John, all you guys in chat. We appreciate it. Hit the like button like JT said. 9 games. Oh, I do. There is a promo code. If you want to sign up, if you're more one lineup and you don't want to use SaberSim or add that on, which I recommend SaberSim. I think it's good for one lineup. I think it's good for everything. We're adding where you can tag our core plays. So you can just select like at least 3 players from Mangone's core and stuff like that which will make you really easy. But if you just want to do RPS, no SaberSim, RPS Heater 25 is back. Gets you 25% off your first month, but that is not included in SaberSim. All right, that's enough of that. 9 games. We're going to dive right into it. The first game of the night, the only game that locks at 7 p.m. Eastern too. So starts at 7. Yahoo actually moved their lock. It's only 8 games, 7:30 p.m. Eastern for anyone who plays over there. But FanDuel, DraftKings, 7 p.m. Eastern. San Antonio Spurs, Philadelphia 76ers, 219.5 total. Philadelphia is favored by 7.5. We go over to the injury report. Derek White out. Keldon Johnson out. Devin Vassell out. Doug McDermott out. Thad Young out. Lonnie Walker questionable. And then before we got on, Trey Jones is also with health and safety protocol, so he's out as well. A lot of guys on the Spurs that are out. As far as the Philadelphia side, Maxey out, Shake Milton out, Danny Green questionable. So not as much on that side. But JT, I'm going to go to you first. A lot of guys are out on the Spurs side. What are you thinking? Because I don't really know. Like, I don't love playing the Spurs side. Bryn Forbes, like, does that interest you too much? They're going to be short. He's going to have to play minutes. Jakob Poeltl has a ceiling, and then anything else on the other side.
Yeah, Forbes actually put up, I think it was a 40-point performance within the last week with all of these COVID protocol issues that the Spurs are having. I think the biggest concern here is, can the Spurs compete with a pretty fully healthy Sixers team, with the exception of Maxey and Milton being out? Now, you don't think of the Sixers, at least this season, as a team that blows a lot of teams out, but that's really because they haven't been at full strength. So the Trey Jones news is pretty big because it leaves Dejounte Murray as the only point guard for the Spurs and leaves them really, really thin. So if you think that this game is going to be somewhat close and you can see where DJ Murray is going to play somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 minutes, then he's in a really good matchup with no point guards left standing on the Sixers. I think there are some better plays at the top range than Joel Embiid, although this is a great matchup for him and he should do well, assuming the game stays close. But a couple of guys that I have my eye on, talked about Murray, but then Tobias Harris, price came down quite a bit. Looks like he's finally getting into the swing of the season at 7.8 on DraftKings. And then Seth Curry, 6'1". Either Curry or Korkmaz is going to have the ball in their hands the entire time. Curry coming off a very nice game against the Magic. So that's kind of the plays there. I don't know. There's so much good value in other spots. I don't know if I want to play the Bates Diops, the Bryn Forbes, whoever else is going to be put into this game by Pop. It's just the Spurs are always a much more volatile roster than almost any other team. And when we have some value both early and then a little bit later, I think that's where I might land.
Yeah, makes sense. So I misspoke a little bit. Lonnie Walker said his question when he was ruled into when the Trey Jones news was announced. But yeah, they're still without a lot of bodies. DeJounte Murray, I'll never say no to Murray. There is a lot of good spend ups on the slate. There's Jokic, there's Giannis. There's multiple other ones. So I think Murray's going to go overlooked. Never will argue with that. Embiid, spend up. Forbes 3.5, Lonnie Walker 4.1. But people in chat are talking about pop rotations and just how there's so many unknowns with it. And yeah, that's never going to change with pop. So Mangone, it's the first game. It locks by itself. Or is it more of a fade for you and just backload, wait for some news that we are waiting on? Got a couple pieces you like? What are you seeing?
Yeah. So the real issue with this game is there's a lot of different things that can happen tonight. So part of me wants to say, let's like start fading some of the earlier games, but you can't fade everything early on. But I do think that this game, DeJounte Murray is an interesting spend up, but there are other spend ups I think I prefer on this slate. Now, of course, if you're like MMEing, I think you can get some exposure to the Spurs, but if you're more of like a 1 to even 3, 5 lineup guy, there's a lot of merit in just saying, okay, let me backload some stuff, figure some stuff out later. Like Trae Young later on is some pretty big news. He's questionable. And there's just a lot that can happen. And I don't know. I don't really want to lock myself into this game. I understand if you want to, like you can make cases for it, but I'm not too interested. I put DeJounte Murray on the cash chart on FanDuel because I get it. I think he can make sense at like a shooting guard or point guard position if you have the raw points and we have enough value. The other problem is you might not know with some of the values that are later on where the chips are going to fall, and you might lock yourself into a Murray where it just doesn't work with what you want to do. Maybe you put yourself on like a site like a FanDuel, maybe you put him at shooting guard and then it messes up your whole construction. That's something to look at as well. So there's so many different variables that can go on where I feel it's better to just wait it out, kind of fade at least the first game. There definitely is a game that we will talk about that comes up, that we're going to have to discuss and figure out, and we might have the news on in time. We might not have the news on in time. And then there's also some studs that are in a game coming up after that one that we need to be looking to play, I think. And I don't know if I want to just get to these guys. Like even the Sixers, like I'm pretty much out on them. I think Tobias Harris has been cheap on FanDuel, but he's not. Today. And then on DraftKings, like, do I want to pay for him? Can you make a case that Embiid is a interesting spend up option? Of course, like almost any slate Embiid is in play as a spend up option, but he's just not the guy for me today.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's more of a stay away and fade the game rather than load up on it. If you wanted a one-off, a Forbes, a Murray, someone on the Philly side, like sure, you'll get them low owned, but it's not a game you go overboard on. We're going to get into the next game. I think what you were hinting at, Mangone, but what's going on? Sylvester Payne, Brian, Kate Philippe, Colin, Kevin in chat said Yahoo is not showing this game. Yeah, Kevin, it's an 8-game slate on Yahoo. So they just took off. Usually on Fridays, I've noticed they've done it a lot. If it's a standalone 6 p.m. game like today, they're just not on the slate at all. So you don't have to worry about this game on Yahoo at all. FanDuel and DraftKings, it does. The next game on the slate, and I think this is what you were hinting at, Mangone, the Utah Jazz, the Toronto Raptors, 220.5 total. Toronto is favored by 11.5. You go to the injury report on Utah, though. Donovan Mitchell, Gobert, Conley, Bogdanovic, Ingles, all out. As far as questionable tags, Jordan Clarkson, Royce O'Neal, Hassan Whiteside, and Rudy Gay, all questionable. Mangone, tell me if I'm wrong, but didn't all of them go through shoot around except Rudy Gay today?
Yeah, but like, I mean, who knows what's going to happen there with the situation.
For sure.
It's just, it could be so, man, I want to know what's going to happen. And like, what if it is unknown leading up to that game? Like, what if like we're like 5 minutes before that game starts and we don't know the starters? Like there's a chance that happens. I'm not saying that's like the more than likely thing that's going to happen, but I'm just thinking through outcomes and the way things can go. And that's the reason I don't think I need to like just slamming guys from that first game. It might be worth it to have that extra 30 minutes. Also, hey, like, I mean, I'm sitting here doing a show. Sometimes it's nice to get those extra 30 minutes, you're updating stuff. And sometimes it's just nice. You're like, okay, I don't need this first game. And sometimes that's just how I build. I know I'm going to be there a little bit longer. Maybe you do know that you don't want to play anyone from the first game. Maybe right after this, go grab some food and then come back, because it could be a long night. You never know how it's going to go. It can always be crazy. You're sitting at the computer and you're like, hey, JT, like the wife's like, when are you going to be done, honey? And you're like, I mean, whenever I decide to get the Jazz lineup or whenever the Hawks decide to release who's going to be in or out. I mean, it's just you're stuck. I don't know what to tell you. So I do think it's going to be, this is going to be a really important game. And there's a lot to like. If I had to kind of start to play the guessing game of what I want to do with this one, I think Jordan Clarkson is clearly going to be in an alpha role. And the thing I really like about this game is this is not the Toronto Raptors team that we have seen. This is not the let's play half court offense and slow the pace down and get others involved. This is back to the old days where it's just let's run and gun. Fred VanVleet and Siakam, you're running the offense. We'll mix in Barnes and Obi and Gary Trent, but it's Fred VanVleet and Siakam. And I think that both these guys are interesting run back options if you want to try and get really different. No one wants to pay these price tags on Siakam and Fred VanVleet. It's uncomfortable compared to some of these other stars in the slate. But what's uncomfortable with the games that they've had? Siakam is 9K on DraftKings. 50 fantasy points, 67.75, 50.5, 41.5, and 55.25. Yes, we're just sitting here reading the game logs, but I can read all the usage rates and all that stuff. It's all calculated into that. Siakam is back. He's a good play on this slate. Just the question is, do you want to play him at the center position? Because that could be a problem. If he was forward eligible, it might make things a little bit easier. Also, do you want to play these guys versus some of the other options that we have on the slate? We have Giannis in a spot without Drew Holiday. We have James Harden in a spot where there's no Drew Holiday playing defense on him, where you can just load the boat on those two guys, play some value plays, and call it a day. I mean, there's definitely a lot of different ways that you can go with studs up top. If you're playing a lot of lineups, though, don't just cross off the Raptors. Don't cross off Fred VanVleet and Siakam, because they are difference makers that can get the job done for you. You can easily plug in a VanVleet at like a shooting guard position if you want to. Sometimes it's a rougher spot. Obviously, we have Clarkson on this slate. I'm sure he has that shooting guard flexibility, so we don't have to worry too much about that. But I think that these Raptor studs can't get slept on. Clarkson, though, I really like. I think Whiteside, those two are probably my two favorite in the game. If Rudy Gay plays, I have interest in Rudy Gay. I also have interest in a guy like Royce O'Neal. I think Royce O'Neal is definitely someone that you can play at 4.1K, but I prefer Rudy Gay to Royce O'Neal. And then all the other guys, I'm not in love with playing them. Like, I don't need to play a Trent Forrest. He's fine at 3-2. I just think one of the issues on this slate is I don't think he's like necessary. I think that all these other guys are going to soak up the usage. They only play with one basketball. Hassan Whiteside doesn't share it. Jordan Clarkson doesn't share it. I just don't think you need to go to a Forrest. But if for some reason, Rudy Gay is out, maybe that helps out Forrest a little bit. But there are a good amount of usage guys between Clarkson, Whiteside, and Gay, where I think that's where I want to soak up my Jazz ownership on this slate.
Yeah, I think you made some really good points. So yeah, everyone did go, or so Whiteside, Clarkson, Royce O'Neal all went through shoot around. Rudy Gay was the only one not to. This game locks at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So we assume that the NBA tries to get lineups and people ruled out and stuff 30 minutes before the game at the latest. So we should get this news, but there is a possibility we don't. And who knows what the starters would be. This Utah side, yeah, it's impossible to ignore, though, with all the injuries. Whiteside, a great play if he's in. Clarkson, elite play, 5-5. Rudy Gay would be a very strong play. Royce O'Neal, like things like that. But I think you made a really good point, man, going on. People aren't going to run it back with these Raptors because they're priced up. They are fully healthy, even though that doesn't really matter since the Raptors rotations are already tight. But there's Giannis, there's KD, there's Harden, there's Jokic. There's so many other spend ups, whereas 9K Siakam feels a little expensive. 9.5 VanVleet feels expensive, but for how they're playing, I mean, this new lineup, Siakam at the 5, they just got so many hoopers out there. OG, Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent, VanVleet, Siakam. They're all so quick. A 5 cannot guard Siakam. VanVleet gets good shots. They have good pick and rolls. They play really good basketball. So if you're loading up on Utah, thinking that this game will pretty much stay close, someone on the Raptors is absolutely going to go off at low ownership. So
yeah, one more thing to mention, Title, look at their rotation. Look at the back end. Look at the guys that come in. It's all big men. So like all these minutes for like the guards are super safe. Like VanVleet, he was my play of the day the other day when he dropped that 50. So that was great. Felt good about that. But like he's someone that his usage is real. Like it ain't going anywhere. Fred VanVleet, 10.5K is probably coming. Like it sounds crazy, sounds insane, but they're playing at a faster pace. They bring in all these big men instead. Like it's Kem Birch, it's Boucher, and they still mix in Siakam. They still get him in there at the 4, and they're not playing half court where they were playing half court more so on offense. And then what was happening was Scotty Barnes was driving to the hoop and they were giving him looks. No, now they're out there running and gunning, and Siakam at the 5, it just is a huge difference for this team. And I just think people have really been ignoring it. And I'm definitely not going to ignore it going forward, even when the price keeps going up.
Yeah, I agree. The hardest thing is he's only center eligible, which I mean, he is playing centers rightfully so, but there's Whiteside, there's Jokic stuff. That'll keep his ownership down even more though. So you can play 2 centers. I think Siakam's interesting. JT, I got to get you in on this conversation though. You mentioned up top, Whiteside, going to be very popular. What are you doing with him in tournaments? Clarkson will be popular. These Utah guys are going to get ownership, and rightfully so. What are you going to do with it in tournaments? And if you're playing multiple of them, are you going to make sure you run back a Toronto Raptor, a low-owned Toronto Raptor, or does that not really matter? Because it's not NFL where like we try and jam run backs, and in baseball we always stack and stuff like that. So it's not a necessity, but how would you go about that in tournaments?
Yeah, we're playing these Utah guys because they're extremely shorthanded. I don't really expect this game to stay all that close, but we expect that the Utah guys are going to play because they don't have bodies. Hassan Whiteside, 3.5K on DraftKings. Going to be hard to get away from him because if he plays 30, 35 minutes, he's going to give you at least 10x. I mean, that's almost a guarantee at that salary point, which is going to be tough to win without that. It's going to be tough to pivot off of that. I think the Toronto guys are worth their prices. I think Van Vliet and Siakam are worth their prices the way that this team is playing. I feel like this is the third game of the week that the Raptors have played against a team that is really shorthanded, like the Spurs the other night. And I've gone to some of these guys, and then you kind of realize, wait a second, even though Toronto's playing fast, it's not a great matchup. It's certainly not a great matchup for opposing guards, the way that they can lock down that position. So I think for me, the play that I'm going to definitely have is Whiteside here, assuming as expected he's in. Not really interested in much from the Toronto side, just because there was a time and point where Nick Nurse would never give up. But we saw the other night against the Spurs where they finally got up 20, sort of towards the end of the third quarter. He pulls all the starters. And I think Van Vliet was the only one who kind of got there. So I'm going to have Whiteside. I'll have some of Clarkson and some of either O'Neal or Gay, depending on how that works out. But I'm not going to go very heavy. Certainly not going to do. If you're looking at optos today, they're giving you 3 or 4 Jazz. I think there's more than enough value on this slate that you don't need to speculate on whether or not Trent Forrest is going to do something in his 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, definitely don't need to go overboard on Utah. They're going to get ownership. Toronto's a no for JT, which makes sense. I think the industry is kind of leading that way as well. Let's get into the next game. Do us a favor, hit the like and subscribe button for us. We appreciate it. The other game that locks at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and this one should be really fun on ESPN2. The Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Brooklyn Nets. 232.5 total. Brooklyn is favored by 4.5. We go to the Milwaukee side. George Hill, Brook Lopez still out, Grayson Allen, Dante DiVincenzo, Pat Connaughton, and Drew Holiday all are out. That's a lot of pieces on Milwaukee that have a spot in the rotation and take minutes. So Milwaukee's short. As far as Brooklyn, Joe Harris is still out, and then Kyrie Irving is out as well, of course. So James Harden, Kevin Durant, 10-6, 10-3 in a high pace-up spot, national television against Giannis. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Giannis on the other side, 11.4K, even Middleton, 7-9. I mean, Middleton's definitely my least favorite. He has been pretty bad this year, to be honest. I like Giannis more. I like Harden. I like KD. But if you're trying to fully stack this game, 7.9K should be low owned. I think would make some sense. Outside of the main guys, I think Jordan Nwora at 5K makes sense. He's just a hooper. He shoots the ball a lot. He has upside. So I'm kind of looking at the stars and Nwora personally. JT, I'm going to go back to you. What are you seeing in this game?
Yeah, I think Giannis here is probably one of the plays. I'm trying to figure out if I want to play Giannis with another high price guy, or if I want to pick one of those guys, Giannis, Jokic, and you mentioned Durant and Harden, one of those two guys, or if I want to get into this mid-range. Like I said, the mid-range, there's some really, really good plays when we get to the games later out west. I think there's some really intriguing plays there that you can't get if you go Giannis and Jokic. Even if you're playing Whiteside, you're playing some of these Jazz. So from this game, I think you're right. I think with Middleton now at 7-9 and Giannis, I think Giannis is actually at about the best price point of any of these higher priced guys. I do think Middleton can be good here. I'm probably not going to have him in my main lineup, but I will have some exposure to him. And then Nwora, like you mentioned, Portis, it seems like this year the Nets have almost, maybe not solved, but at least cut down a little bit on how vulnerable they were against opposing centers. So I don't know how I feel Portis up at 6'5" here. But then on the other side for Brooklyn, I think it's, at a point where it's either Harden or Durant. I don't even want to mess around with the Aldridges on this team right now on this slate.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Nets, it's Harden, it's KD. Don't even guess at the secondary pieces. I'm with you there. I think playing one of them makes a lot of sense. And there's enough value on the slate. You can play one of KD, Harden, and run it back with Giannis, and even throw Middleton if you wanted in there. Like 232.5 national televised. These guys are going to get run. No Drew on the Buck side too. it should be fun and very fun for DFS too. Love the Giannis call. Think he makes so much sense. I agree with you on Bobby too. Like, not only have the Nets been better, but he's 6'5" and he's only center eligible too, which we keep talking about the center position, Whiteside, Jokic, even the Siakam. So I don't think I see myself getting to Bobby. More of a FanDuel play with power forward eligibility. Mangon, I'll go to you. What are you doing with the studs in this game, and talk about anything else?
Yeah, I mean, you have to like Giannis here. I mean, definitely a good spend up option. It just depends. Like, do you want to put him at that power forward position, center? Like, if he was
Power
small,
forward, play him
what?
at power forward. If you're playing
Yeah,
Giannis, I say power forward for sure.
Yeah, you probably put him at power forward today. There are routes where I think you could put him at center. Like, let's say you weren't playing a Jokic. Well, you could put him at the center position if it made some sense, but he'd probably go more so at util anyway, so it doesn't matter that much. But I do think that Giannis is a good play. If you look at the small forward position, I don't love small forward on DraftKings. Like, yes, people will be like, well, you have Rudy Gay. It's like, yes, no kidding. We have Rudy Gay there. You can play him. But like, who else do you like? Let's say you eliminated Rudy Gay. He's just off the slate. And you couldn't even like say, oh, there's the Jazz replacement or whatever. Who are just the guys that you like at small forward? It's not an incredible spot. Yes, you can play KD. He's a good play. But I think Middleton comes more into the conversation as an interesting leverage if you do want to do a Giannis fade and think that he is the guy that just somehow becomes the alpha here and like has a big game. Of course, like Giannis will probably dominate, but I think that Chris Middleton can have a big game and be a really interesting low owned tournament option that you can go to for a different kind of construction. So I don't hate that in tournaments, but Giannis is definitely the best guy in this game. I don't know really what to do with Javonte Smart. Like, I think he's fine, but we just have good enough value. Like you can say, yeah, Javonte Smart, can he get there? Yes, I think he has the opportunity to get there. Projection's decent. He should see a good amount of minutes, but would you be surprised if they closed out with someone else there? Maybe they put like Wes Matthews at the one. Not that he's like playing point guard, but they slide him in there to kind of cover on Harden. And then the guys running the offense are Chris Middleton and Giannis. That's certainly possible. And they bring in like a Jordan Nwora for a little bit more shooting. So I think that's something that can happen. And that is some of the risk that comes with the Javonte Smart on this slate. I really do like some of these Nets. We have no Kyrie Irving, so that is nice for James Harden. Price has gone down. FanDuel, he's 10-4. DK, he's 10-6. I think he is a good option that you want to get into your lineups today as a spend up. I mean, this game went from a 229 total to a 232.5. That's a nice movement. It's one of the highest totals on the slate. It's just a game that you don't want to ignore. It's really, what do you think of Giannis versus Harden and what position they're at? What do you think of a Jokic, where the position that you're going to put him at there? Obviously, Whiteside is one of the best values at the slate. And when you kind of put Whiteside in there, well, that hurts Jokic. There's only one more roster spot for him. I mean, it's no secret that Whiteside's a good play. And maybe you do play a Jokic and he drops 80 and then Whiteside only goes for 25 to 28. And that's certainly good at his price, but you could make the argument if Jokic has that monster game, maybe that different kind of construction could work and you have other values that work out. So these studs, they're very good plays, but you have to look at the positions they're at, look at how they fit your full construction of your lineup, and then make the decision from there. And I do think doing a Harden and Giannis, like double stack those guys and fill out values, it's not a bad way to go because it's kind of like you're just hitting one leg of a parlay of trying to make that game interact. And if it does, I feel good about both those guys getting there.
Yeah, that's my lean in tournaments. I'm going to play Giannis. He's going to be my highest exposed spend up. I think it's a great game. Drew Holiday out, like everything's setting up for it. And I think going one of KD and Harden too, like Jokic is going to be owned, rightfully so. Jokic is a great play. Things like that. Like that's why Harden, KD, Giannis, the ownership's not going to be crazy. And I'm just going to pair two of them together. We have the value, like you said, like if the game stays close, those two or two of the three are probably going to get there. So I'm with you, Giannis, one of Harden, KD, and I'm with you on Javonte Smart too. Like I'm expecting him to start at the point guard, but I don't think we need to do that on the slate. I would be surprised unless he's playing really good basketball. If he does close, Middleton can bring the ball up. Giannis can bring the ball up, things like that, where they don't need like the point guard, so to speak, and Javonte Smart. So I'm with you. I don't think you need to go there as well. Spent a good amount of time on that game, but man, that's the game of the night. I think 232.5 total, 4.5 spread, Brooklyn Bucks. That should be a very fun game. Get some pieces into your lineup. Let's go to the next game, 8 p.m. Eastern, Minnesota Timberwolves, Oklahoma City Thunder, 218.5 total. Minnesota is favored by 5.5. Go to the Minnesota side. Patrick Beverley is questionable. That's it for the Minnesota side. OKC, Roby and Favors are out, but that's it on the OKC side. So two really, really healthy teams. JT, I'll go to you. I'm not seeing much. I think it's more of a cross off for me. Anything you see that I'm missing?
No, I don't have a ton of interest here. I think the rest of the way we're going to see a bunch of these healthy teams. There is one value piece that does stand out to me. Jeremiah Robinson Earl is just 3-3 on DraftKings from the Thunder. Played 22 minutes in his first game back after the COVID protocols. He should get close to 30 minutes here. And at 3-3, I think he makes for one of the better value plays outside of teams like the Jazz and the Spurs. A nice pivot there.
Yep, makes some sense. Jerry, if I had to if I had to pick one guy in this game, he would actually be the guy. I think Jerry, 3.3K. And the good thing about him is he's power forward and center eligible too. So you could play him at power forward if you have two centers, something like that. Mangone, any JRE for you? Anything else in this game you're looking at?
No, with full faith. Let's move on to the next one.
Let's move on to the next one. Washington Wizards, Chicago Bulls, 225.5 total. The Bulls are favored by 6. Let's go to the injury report on the Washington side. I mean, Montrezl Harrell out, Rui Hachimura out, Bertans out, Brad Wanamaker out. Not the biggest of names, though, that are out for Washington. They get Dinwiddie back. As far as Chicago side, Caruso's out, Javonte Green's out. But again, Bulls are relatively healthy, too. I'll go right back to Mango. And what are you seeing in this game?
Yeah, tough game to go to. I mean, I've been definitely on the Bradley Beal train, but feels like a good time to get off. And the Bulls too, they're not that they're crowded now, but they, when you have Alonzo Ball, you got Levine, you got DeRozan, Vucevic, at all those price tags of 9.7, 9.2, 9.1, those are tough to stomach here on this slate compared to some of the other studs. Would I be surprised if some of these guys had big games at low ownership? No, I wouldn't, but I think there's other options that I'd rather go to. I think there's other low owned studs that I could go to instead that I think have a better probability of getting there or having a ceiling game. So I'm just off this game too, even though it is a 225.5 total. I wouldn't be chasing Kuzma, Gafford. It just does not feel like a good spot to go to these guys at this point with the guys coming back. I think there's other games that we'll talk about, other studs that we can go to that'll help us get different, or other guys that we can play than this game.
I'm with you. I think that's the second game in a row for me. That's a cross off. Sounds like you're the same. JT, you got any gems like last game in this game, or a little fade away, stay away for you?
No, nothing here on this game.
Nothing here on this game. Easy enough. So what? 9-game slate. We pretty much already made it a 7-game slate like that. Next game, Dallas Mavericks, Houston Rockets, 215 total. Dallas is favored by 2.5. On the Rockets side, Sengun is out. That's pretty much it on that side, though. You go up to Dallas, Porzingis out, Cauley-Stein out, Boban out, and Luka doubtful. So can't stay away from Dallas. And when Luka's out or doubtful, so I'm just assuming you won't play. What does that mean? Jalen Brunson always comes in to be a pretty good play. 7K, so the price is up there, but I mean, it should be 7K. It should be 7.5. His role on this team without KP and Luka, he's one of the, he dominates the ball. He has the usage. He can fill up the peripheral stats. So I think Brunson makes a lot of sense. Tim Hardaway at 5.1 always likes to chuck. He has a ceiling. Maxi Kleber at 4K, power forward eligible. JT, I'll go to you. I think some of these Dallas guys are interesting. Which ones are your favorite? And then are you running it back with anybody on Houston?
Yeah, it's a great matchup for the Mavericks as well. As many points, as many fantasy points as Houston can give up. So you start with Brunson. It's a really interesting matchup as well for Tim Hardaway Jr., even for guys like Dorian Finney-Smith. And then I guess you could go Kleber. I don't have a ton of interest in him on this slate. And then you look at the other side, I do think there's a couple of plays here that I'm interested in. Christian Wood back out of the doghouse, only 7-1 on DraftKings. Without Porzingis, Dwight Powell playing 20 minutes down low and whoever else they bring in, seems like it could be a sneaky underrated spot for Wood here against the Mavericks. And then Jalen Green. Jalen Green has been fantastic all year. Price now down to 5K. Don't know if I get to him in Maine just because of, like I said, the matchup that I like on the Mavericks side. But at 5K, I think he's in the mix there in GPPs for a 7X performance here against a team in Dallas that ordinarily gives up pretty big points to opposing guards. And now you take Luka out of the mix, and the defense, well, it doesn't really suffer all that much without him, but it's going to be easy to see where the guards for Houston can get there as well.
Yeah, I think I agree. Christian Wood would be my favorite run back. He's coming off 43 points. He played 33 minutes Obviously, there was a question before that, since the game before is when he refused to check in, stuff like that. But good to see he gets 34 minutes. I'm expecting normal. I will say he did shoot the ball really, really good in that game, though. He was 8 for 12. He had 11 rebounds. So he was very efficient to get 43, but there still is upside there, especially if you're running a couple of Dallas pieces. Man, go and talk about the Dallas side. And then, I got to get the name right. Tim said 5.3K Brunson on FanDuel. He said lock. Yeah, 5.3 Brunson FanDuel. I'm running 150 over there today. I think he's probably going to be in all 150 in my lineups. That price is silly, but talk about the DraftKings price, 7K. Anything else in this game?
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Brunson at 5.3 on FanDuel. That is
silly.
Yeah, it's a silly price tag. Like if I told you title on FanDuel, you can only play one of Clarkson or Jalen Brunson, you would play Jalen Brunson over Clarkson, and that's how good of a play he is over on FanDuel.
For sure.
Yeah, so he's just such a good play over there.
Under 50 lineups, lock him in. That's how I'm approaching it.
Yeah, definitely good options there. I'm kind of trying to figure out what to do with some of these other guys. Like, so Jalen Brunson on DK, it's definitely more of a conversation because of how good guard is. I think he's solid at 7K, but it's not someone I need to just slam into my lineup. You still have to do a lot at that price tag. And since we have a lot of value plays in this slate, sometimes when you have enough value plays, what happens is you just need raw points. And yes, can Jalen Brunson be one of those higher raw point scorers on the slate? Yeah, he could be, but also he could be not one of those guys that doesn't get the job done there. And it could be frustrating. It is the Houston Rockets matchup. And they are favorites. They're 2.5 point favorites on the road, but I think it's a good spot for them. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. off the bench is an interesting option at 5.1K on DraftKings. Like him on FanDuel too as well. He's not as good of a play as Brunson, but he's definitely in play. And so I wouldn't ignore him. And then Maxi Kleber is someone else that I'm going to look at as a really good option. If we randomly get that Boban is starting, of course, I would look to him, but I don't even know if he's out. Is he okay? Then what about Moses Brown then? Moses Brown, is he in? He should be good to go if he got the start.
I'd be shocked to see it, but I think so.
The reason I call this out is Jason Kidd does stupid stuff. On the flip side, sometimes it's like, okay, you play Tim Hardaway Jr., he plays maybe 12 first half minutes. Let's say they blow him out, and then he plays like 6 second half minutes, and then he only played 18 minutes. And you're like, well, what happened? Well, Jason Kidd's a moron. He just does stupid stuff. So there is that small risk that lies there. And I know, JT, you struggle with this too. Like, you don't like playing guys when they have like coaches that can do dumb things. And this isn't like a slate where we're trying to create value. It's a slate where we have a lot of value. So it is something to think about, I think, when you're kind of creating tiebreaker scenarios between some of these players. Wouldn't you agree, JT?
Well, that's why I say it's Brunson and DFS as 1 and 2, because those are the guys who, even when Porzingis and Doncic are in, they're getting not so much Brunson, but 28, 30 minutes. I think with the way this team sets up, they'll need Hardaway Jr. to score. So he comes in third for me. And then you mentioned they are limited down low. It's just Kleber's price point is, it's low, but I think there's some other value. Like, so he is at, $700 more than JRE, and it just depends on roster construction. Do I have the 4,000 to spend up at Kleber? Because he's not a smash play. He could do really well. He should do really well in this matchup, but you just never know what you're going to get with him.
Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah, Kleber 4K, fine play. Brunson's the guy. DFS, like you said, will get the minutes. Tim Hardaway. You got to have some interest in these Dallas side for sure. And then, like you said, the run back, Christian Wood, you mentioned. JT likes the guards a little bit too. Jalen Green definitely makes some sense a little bit. Let's get into the next game. But first, what do we got? 506 watching, 203 likes. What do you think? I'll say 250 likes today. That's not very hard. Good viewership. It's a Friday. Hit the like button for us, please. Big weekend ahead. NFL on Saturdays. We got a Millie Maker tomorrow. Lots of prize pools. All of the content will be up for Saturday, for Sunday. Got a little Showdown golf going right now. I'm in the golf streets a little bit, sweating out the whole weekend. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of money to be made. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button for us, please. Looking forward to see RPS members up top. Next game, only 3 games left, 9 p.m. Eastern, Sacramento Kings, Denver Nuggets, 226.5 total. Denver is favored by 8. Going to the king side, Deshaun Holmes out, Metu out, Terrence Davis questionable. Going over to the Denver side, Jamal Murray, Porter Jr. obviously still out, PJ Dozier out, Marcus Howard out, but nothing really on this Denver side. So I don't know. Obviously like a Will Barton, maybe things like that. The big names, Jokic, 12K, really, really good spend up. You got to pick. Like, this is why I love 150 in today, but even multiple lineups. There's Giannis, KD, Harden, Jokic. They all have 70+ point upside and can break the slate. Jokic makes a ton of sense in a good matchup. I think De'Aaron Fox is interesting too as a low ownership play. We were talking about like if you're going Giannis and KD pairing them, it makes sense. Fox has played over 35, or he's played about 35 minutes the past 3 games. He's got over 40 fantasy points in all of them. 7.2K. He's finally starting to come around. I think you would make a little sense if you go Jokic, run it back with Fox. JT, I'll go to you. Jokic, Fox, Barton. What else have you seen in this game?
Yeah, so Jokic is a great play. Centers against the Kings are always great plays, and Jokic is the heart and soul of this Denver Nuggets team. Important note here, though, you've got Monty Morris back now, and Denver might not be fully healthy, but they're much healthier than they have been over the course of the last, let's say, 6 weeks. So this is one of the things that I think you have to you have Joker, you have LeBron, and then you have Giannis. And if I'm picking from those 3, it's pretty easy that I'm going to side with Giannis as number 1 because of the way that the Milwaukee Bucks are limited with Giroux out and some of these other injuries. So for me, if I'm just picking one at the top tier, it's going to be Giannis. I know that makes you happy, Title, because you're a huge Bucks fan. But I think it's the right thing to do here because with Joker at 12K, you've heard us talk now, center's loaded tonight. There's a lot of really good center plays. Joker, of course, at the top here. And I will have some of him, no doubt. But you look at some of the other prices on the Nuggets, I think it's a good spot for them as a whole. This Kings team is a bit of a mess right now. They're playing a little bit faster. They are playing a little bit better defensively. I don't think they have anything to throw at Joker, but you have Monty Morris back. Morris just 4 or 5. He played nearly 30 minutes the other night, even though Campazzo started. Barton, 5'8". You've got Gordon in the mix there. So I think it's easier to see where Jokic could have a good game, but not like an 85, 86 point performance. And Giannis is in a spot where he could do just that. So if it's me, I'm siding Giannis over Joker. And then in this game on the Kings side, not a whole lot of interest with the exception of one guy. And I'm still amazed he gets 30 minutes, but whatever he had on Luke Walton, he must have on Alvin Gentry as well. Harrison Barnes, 5.5 price all the way down now, and he always kills this Nuggets team. I don't know if you guys played Evan Fournier last night. I had about 60% in the lineups I played because he just smashes. Well, there was a couple of reasons, but he smashes that team.
That's the narrative. Harrison Barnes never played for the Nuggets. Narrative Street is undefeated, so it was all the revenge. That's clearly what it was.
There you go. So I don't know why he always does well against his team, but 5.5K at 30 minutes where he's for some reason a key part of this offense. I don't mind Harrison Barnes here.
Hey, I like that. If you, I was watching Evan Fournier was just unconscious yesterday. Announcers kept saying, "Oh, he killed the Celtics too." You get another one the day after the Fournier play yesterday. JT's given a 1% own Harrison Barnes too. So 5.5K, like a JT. Man, go and talk about Jokic. How do you rank him as the spend ups? Anybody on the Kings side or anybody else in this game?
Yeah, Jokic is definitely a good spend up. One thing that could change with this slate is, let's say Hassan Whiteside got ruled out. Well, if Hassan Whiteside got ruled out, what you would see happen is you would kind of consider Jokic more at center because now there's not a center spot that's just taken up. And on top of that, you would also see some of these values, Royce O'Neal, Rudy Gay, who you can put at those forward spots, they would rise to the top more. I mean, you wouldn't just put in this Azubuike guy or whatever his name is. JT, you might not have pronounced his name, but
Kansas.
Like,
that's Azubuike, Kansas.
Azubuike. So Mr. Azubuike wouldn't just go in and play 35 minutes. It's just not what would happen. They'd play a little bit more small ball stuff and they'd run more Rudy Gay and Royce. Royce will go down in the paint and grind down low and try to grab those boards. So I do think that if for some reason Whiteside, and we don't know what's going to happen with the Jazz, but if he got ruled out, that would change stuff. That would make me probably want to raise the ownership on Jokic on my side. I would want to be like, okay, I have more interest in him. He's a better play because I don't have already one spot that's just taken by a free square if it's on Whiteside, which is what it feels like. So I think that's definitely really worth mentioning. I think that on the Kings side, I've definitely seen De'Aaron Fox make some nice strides lately. It seems like he's getting more back to an alpha role. It's the wrong slate, in my opinion. If maybe you decide today, I'm going to play all the value and play a mid-tier build. I wouldn't hate it, but it's not something I would make sure I'd be like, okay, I got to put it in my lineup. I think one thing you could do on this slate too is instead of playing one stud and a lot of values, and then put another stud in. Maybe you go some of the values, one stud, and then some of these mid-tier guys like a De'Aaron Fox. You could do a De'Aaron Fox ran back with a Jokic. It's certainly possible. Not one of my favorite things to do. It's probably a very deep GPP thing. But if you do play a guy like Fox on this slate or a Halliburton, I would probably want to run that thing back with Jokic. I think that makes a lot of sense and is something that you should do when you're kind of building out your lineups if you decide to get exposure to him. But again, not one of the greatest games on the slate. I think Jokic is a really good stud, and it's worth comparing him to all the other guys. And we got other studs coming up that we should definitely talk about. And it's going to be really interesting to see their ownership on this one.
Yeah, the reason I mentioned Fox is, yeah, he's going to be 1%. This whole Kings really will. If you're playing Jokic, Fox has upside. He's shown a little bit recently too. And no one's going to play, like you said, like a Jokic Fox pairing, like in tournaments, 9-game slate, 1% own. If you're playing in that big $15 or something today, I think it's interesting with upside. But I agree. As far as like the Azubuike and stuff, well, we'll get the Whiteside and all that. But yeah, like this whole COVID thing, the one good thing that has came out of it is so many of these guys, Kiefer Sykes, Azubuike, these Brandon Boston, even, who maybe he would have a chance a little bit, but the guys that never would have got a chance to play in the NBA are now seeing time and showing their skills off. And some of these guys are now going to have spots and roster spots the rest of their careers and made a career out of it because of it. So when I was watching the game, I saw Azubuike out there. I was like, wow, I did not expect to see him ever step in the NBA, but good game. Jokic, always a great play. No different today. Kings will be low on little Harrison Barnes for JT. I think Fox is interesting at 1% as well. Looking at the Whites, 3 more, 2 games left. You guys are absolutely going to smash it for us. Next game on the slate, 10 p.m. Eastern, Atlanta Hawks, Los Angeles Lakers, 230 total. Lakers are favored by 2.5. Go to the Lakers side. Anthony Davis is out. That's it. Go to the Kings side. A lot more news over here. Trae Young questionable, John Collins questionable, Bogdanović questionable, Jalen Johnson questionable, Hunter's still out. So we saw Trae Young get ruled out on Monday or on Wednesday. We all kind of expected him to play. We don't really see Trae get ruled out too much, but he was out. This game's at 10 p.m. Eastern. We're not going to get the news. So I'm going to go to you, Mangone. Are you going to try and backload for some of this? We have good games early, which I personally, I don't think I'm going to. But yeah, I mean, what? Gallinari would be a fine play. He didn't have the best game, but there would be good plays if Trae was out, if Bogdanović was out, stuff like that. And then someone in chat mentioned LeBron on like Fridays. He said always play LeBron on Fridays or something. Not sure how those correlate, but personally, I'm not getting to LeBron today. He's 11-6. I mentioned 4 other studs we like more, but he'll be low owned. So JT can't stop laughing at Fridays and LeBron correlating. I saw it in chat. I had to acknowledge it, but man, going LeBron, what are you doing with this Hawks side? Talk about it.
Yeah. So one thing you can do on this slate is that game starts at 10 Eastern. So you can look, and if you're like JT, you know, you're a Montana man, you build your lineups like a man, you don't need no optimizer. You know what you do? You go in and if you have Jokic on a team and you have some other guys, you just look and see, okay, let's say Jokic, let's say that Trae Young gets ruled out. Well, Clint Capella was on pace for a massive game the other day. And then you see, well, what other swaps could I make if I have other late guys that I'm backloaded for? What change could I have? Have a plan if Trae Young is ruled out. You got all the time in the world. Tell the wife, JT, I got to figure out what's going on with Trae. You know, watch the Notebook by yourself for a little bit. I'll be in there shortly. So definitely be sure to look at that. I think it's super important. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I mean, we have guys like we got Kevin Huerter, who we saw him have a massive game, and we're not scared of the Lakers defensively. You got guys like DeLon Wright, where 5'6", yeah, it's a price tag that, yeah, on this slate, you don't need it, but could he have a 40, 50 point fantasy game? Of course he couldn't. He's not going to be owned. I mean, if you ruled out Trae Young right now, what do you think a lot of these values would rank versus these other guys? They'd be really good plays. I mean, they wouldn't be maybe above the Jazz, but they'd be right below them, and they'd be good options that are, you know, way, way lower owned. So I think there is some merit if you're playing 5 teams tonight. Maybe just backload one a good amount. Maybe you just put in a Whiteside, you put in like a stud and just a Clarkson, and you leave the ability to play a lot of studs with it, because some of the things that correlate with these last 3 games is there's value plays and there's studs that you can go to. Obviously at 9:00 is when you have that Nuggets game. You might have to make a decision then. You might not have the news on Trae, but you might have an update that he is a game time decision. And you also have LeBron James as a guy that you can go to later. You can say, maybe I don't want Jokic and I'll go to LeBron, because LeBron at the 5 against the Hawks, who aren't playing any defense, and everyone acts like Clint Capella is great defensively. He has not been great defensively. This Hawks team has not been that good defensively against guys like LeBron James the 5. It's going to be a disaster for them. And everyone would have played LeBron tonight if he had a great game the other day. But you know what? He disappointed everyone. He had a nice 47-point fantasy game, and everyone's like, he's slowing down now. Maybe he's just too old. LeBron can easily go out and have a massive game and be the highest scorer on this slate at almost no ownership. It feels like no one wants to talk about LeBron anymore. We've moved on. There is some merit to backloading at least one of your teams to kind of get some early value, see how you're sitting, and then go to these other guys that could be really low owned and really good value plays.
Yeah, I'm seeing about 15% for LeBron. I'm expecting even a little lower, to be honest. Like LeBron is, I mean, you can always play LeBron for sure. The thing is, you just can't play. If you're 150, and sure you can, but you still have to make some stances. You can't play Harden, KD, Giannis, Jokic, and B. Like you have to make some stands personally. Personally, I'm not going to be on LeBron just because I love the Giannis, the KD game stack, things like that, and Jokic over LeBron for me personally. So I won't be playing LeBron, but man, like you definitely cannot go wrong. I will not talk you out of LeBron in a big total and a close spread. Makes sense there. JT, talk about this Atlanta side. We're probably not going to get the news. So are you going to backload and wait for it and stuff? I assume you won't really be on LeBron too for the same reason as myself, but talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, 261 likes. If you have joined late, it's Titletown's birthday this week. So just out of respect, hit the like button. And then I got to get 300 for the Eiffel Tower play. So you need 39 more. We got to get to 300, very simply put. The Hawks, looks like all these guys went through shoot around today. I don't think that was the case the other night with the Kings. And let's be honest, NBA coaches aren't stupid. They see a matchup with Alvin Gentry's Kings, and they're like, we don't need our stars to play in this game. But different matchup here tonight against the Lakers. One thing I will say about the LeBron thing and whether or not he makes value, price up a little bit now, 11.6, and he's got help now. You've got Monk now back in that starting lineup, and he played nearly 40 minutes. I think it was 40 and 37 minutes. Malik Monk at 5'8". Atlanta gives up a ton of points to opposing guards. I don't even mind. Talk about LeBron being low owned. I'm going to play maybe 5-6 lineups. Russ Westbrook hasn't been great. This is a great matchup for opposing point guards. So especially if Trey is out, although it looks like it's trending to where he plays, looks like it's trending to where John Collins will be back, and looks like it's trending to where there's a lot of bodies now for the Atlanta Hawks. So I expect this to be almost a game that I really want to watch as opposed to a game that I really want to target from a fantasy standpoint. But to the extent that this could be a close game, then yeah, I do think LeBron makes sense as a low-owned pivot. I like Malik Monk a little bit deeper getting to Russ. To Mangone's point, if Trae Young does get ruled out, the first guy you pick is Kevin Huerter. Everyone was talking the other night, oh, he's not starting. It doesn't matter because he's going to run the second unit and then he's going to stay on. It wasn't ever going to be DeLon Wright. And I'm not sure where Clint Capella went because I actually swapped to a lineup with Huerter and Capella, and Capella let us down there in the second half, but Huerter did not.
JT, it wasn't even his fault. Like, so look at the minutes. Like, if Capella plays the normal minutes, he played 26 minutes, 38.5 fantasy points.
Were there
like,
foul issues?
No, he just like the coach is a donkey. I don't know what to tell you. McMillan's an idiot.
He's not, so I actually kind of agree that he is a donkey at times. But this pair, they don't like Capella. They like Collins a lot more. They locked up Collins long-term. I'm not sure what they're doing with Capella. It'd make more sense if they traded him at the deadline for maybe some forward help if Hunter is going to be out for a while. But that was, he had 23.75, I think, DraftKings points in the first half. I went to bed thinking, all right, this is going to be no problem. And I wake up and he ended with 38. I didn't know exactly what happened, but disappointing there for sure. But like I said, I think it's trending to where all these guys are going to be in. If Trey and Collins and Bogue, they're all back, I'm completely out on the Hawks today.
Yep, definitely makes sense. We had someone in chat, I lost a name. He's saying Malik Monk's going to go off and stuff. And I mean, Malik Monk's as good of a hooper as it gets. The dude can flat out score 5.8K, coming off a pretty... Go
Someone said Malik Monk never goes off. He went off for me a week ago. Like, I mean, Malik Monk gets the job done. He can, with the LeBron at the 5, this is the key title. And you say he's a hooper, and you're right. I mean, he can get buckets.
He went off last game on Wednesday. He had 41.
Yeah, I mean, Malik Monk's great.
Yeah, no,
I'm a little concerned about this price jump.
Oh yeah, he's 1%. Like someone's saying he's going to go off. Like Yeah, well, I'm not advocating like jam Malik Monk in lineups, but yeah, I mean the guy can hoop. He's 1% owned. LeBron loves him, and this is also an ESPN game too. So it's I mean, what an ESPN slate tonight. It should be a lot of fun if you're staying in watching basketball. But the Nets, Bucks, and then you get the Atlanta Hawks, which I agree with you. I'm expecting Trae Young, Bogdanovic, guys like that to play, and then LeBron on the other side. So should be two. I mean, spreads are close, high totals in both. Should be fun games for sure. Let's go. JT said Eiffel Tower the play of the day. He raised it 300. Like the chat said, someone had said when JT speaks, Knowles fan. When JT speaks, they listen. 298 already. So shout out to you guys. We appreciate it. Don't want to miss the Eiffel Tower play of the day today. I'm feeling a big boy score for JT's Eiffel Tower play of the day. But we got one game left. We got to talk about it. Cleveland Cavaliers, Portland Trailblazers, 215.5 total. Cleveland is favored by 5.5. On the Portland side, Dame's still out. McCollum's still out. Larry Nance is out. Going over to the Cleveland side, Colin Sexton, Rubio, Okoro, all out. So Cleveland is obviously, we know the guards they're pretty light on, but outside of that, they're relatively healthy. Anthony Simons, 6.2K. Talk about another hooper. The kid can flat out score. He can fill it up. Point guard and shooting guard eligible at 6.2K. If you want to go like a Nasir Little, Nurkic, Powell, I think they're all fine, but Simons is the guy I'm most interested in. Mangone, I'll go to you. What are you seeing in this game?
Yeah, I mean, not my favorite game. So the prices are going up on some of these guys. You got Anthony Simons at 6.2, which, yeah, he can still pay off that tag, but on this slate with all the other values, it's tougher to roster. Nurkic has a good price on FanDuel at 6K. He's okay on DK, but do I need to play him at center? Probably not. I believe Rondo is not there yet. I know he might join on the road trip. I think this is like the first game of their road trip. And well, let's say he does join and he starts, like, yeah, 3.3K. You'd want to consider Rondo even on this slate with all the values that you have. But I don't think that's going to be the case. And they also have Darius Garland back. So
Rondo was probable. I saw Rondo was probable.
He's probable. Okay. So, but is he going to start? That's the key. I saw people talking in the chat and like, it's just such a good slate of values. I don't think you need to go there to him, but if you told me he started, it could make sense. But I think there are routes too where like
I wouldn't take the risk with Rondo on this slate.
I think it's the wrong slate to take that risk. If you do have your lineups backloaded and you do have the ability to go him, and like it's just like you need a value play at no ownership. He does have upside. This is a matchup against Portland. I mean, Portland is terrible defensively. You can definitely target him. So if he did start, I'd have interest in it. I don't think it's like the worst idea in tournaments, but is it worth building your lineups out and like waiting for that news? No, it's not. If you happen to fall on it, you're hanging out, and maybe it's like a late night slate. Maybe you play that 2-gamer at night. The wife has already bailed on you, JT. She said, you've been waiting for this Trae Young news too long. I'm done hanging out with you. Then maybe you just stay all night and you play some Rajon Rondo on the late slate. How's that sound, JT?
JT, take away this game. Answer Mangone's question.
Always exciting to roster Rajon Rondo. I mean, that is sort of the low point of DFS when you're like, I guess I got to put this guy in. But he is likely at some point going to be taking over the Ricky Rubio role. Just don't know if he's going to get to the 30-minute point range there, right? And you mentioned this is a great matchup for the Cavs. Not as good a matchup for Portland. Cavaliers very, very good defensively. It is only I think it's now a 5.5 point spread. Of course, that has something to do, I think, with the Cavs being a little bit limited in terms of some of their rotation pieces. The guard spot's a little bit limited, but they are full up down low. They're full up with Jared Allen, who I think is an intriguing pivot low-owned play tonight at 8.3 on DraftKings. Evan Mobley at 7.4 is a good play. Probably not going to go back to Kevin Love now that he's in the mid-7s. And I never play Lauri Markkanen on this team right now, the way that they're set up. And then Darius Garland, very good play. On the Blazers, looks like Cody Zeller was cleared and is going to be back. So even though Nance is out, now you've got Little, you've got Nurkic, and then you've got Zeller is going to play his 12 or 13 minutes. So I think Little is interesting in his price point for 6. Again, just not a great matchup against the Cavs for any of these guys on Portland. Even if the game stays close, it's just hard to see any of these guys really giving you what you need to get into that top 10 of a tournament on this slate.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to stay away from Cleveland. Simon's my favorite on Portland. If you want a one-off, Nurkic, Powell, something like that. Little, I think you can too, but not the best game to close it out, I don't think. That was all 9 games. We crossed off, I think, like a couple. We crossed off some sides on some games too. I think we gave you a nice direct route. Very, very fun slate. The Utah news is obviously big. Up to Lock show is going to be very important with that. Should get it when they're on the show. Got a lot of studs to pay for. Picking the right ones tough. A lot of good games to watch. So looking at the likes, 315, they responded to you, JT. So the Eiffel Tower, the play of the day, will be coming. But hold on. Eiffel Tower play of the day. That's the dessert. We're going to get to that. It's going to break the slate. Mangone, you're a little appetizer for us. Little appetizer started off for us. The dry hump play of the day. Who do you got?
Yeah, I think this is really off the board. It's a nice little run back for those Jazz values. Give me Fred VanVleet one more time. I mean, I'm gonna ride these guys out till the price tags go up. I'm telling you, I think it's wrong. I think the prices should be higher. I think the projection's wrong on him, and I think it's a good spot. And let's say this game does stay close. Well, your values will absolutely smash. You'll just be at the top of the leaderboard to start out the night. You'll be sitting on a nice little like 3% Fred VanVleet in that little shooting guard spot, playing him and Clarkson, and he'll do his best to try and beat out a James Harden. And maybe that gives you the ability to, instead of playing James Harden, you play Kevin Durant, right? As like a leverage instead. So there's definitely a lot of routes you can go today at the top. And I think Fred VanVleet at 9.5K, I still think it's too cheap. You might say I'm crazy, but hopefully I can come back here on Monday and be like, hey, Fred VanVleet is 10K.
Yeah, no, Big T's talked about it a couple days for now. Like he just under projected, Big T thinks, in the industry. The minutes are there. He's playing really good basketball. I think that makes a lot of sense in tournaments. I'll go to myself for the SO play of the day. I'm going to go Tim Hardaway Jr. at 5.1K. Houston's absolutely terrible. We love picking on them. Brunson, of course, is going to get ownership. Hardaway's going to get some ownership too. It's not a 1% play, but I'm seeing about 18% right now. Tim Hardaway loves the chalk. He has a lot of upside at 5'1". Excuse me. And I love how he's shooting guard and small forward eligible too. So you can put him at the guard spot. You can put him at the forward spot. He can do a lot of flexibility with your lineups. Tim Hardaway Jr. as the SO play of the day. The moment you've all been waiting for, boys and girls, the Eiffel Tower play of the day. JT, send it home for us.
Yeah, so one of my favorite players on the slate is a guy I haven't been able to play a lot this season just because the team has been fully healthy. And I just talked about it a few minutes ago, a little bit of a weakness there in terms of players available. Ricky Rubio goes down a couple of weeks ago. Look, the Portland Trailblazers have perhaps the worst defense in the history of the National Basketball Association, particularly when it comes to guarding the point guard position. We saw Trae Young light them up for 86 points the other night with only a 5.5-point spread. It's the pride of Brentwood Academy. It is Winston and Felicia's Darius Garland, Eiffel Tower play of the day.
Darius Garland, Eiffel Tower play of the day. Yeah, these late games are getting more and more appealing as much as I keep hearing JT talk about them. I'm seeing 1% ownership too on Darius Garland too. So little 1% own late night hammer to bring you up the lineups. Very fun show, 9 games. Always good seeing you, man. Going JT, good to see you as well. Helmet behind the sticks. It was a lot of fun. Up to Lock show is going to be very important with this Utah news and when anything else pops up. Appreciate you guys all hanging out. Hope you have a great weekend. All of the content will be up for NBA Tonight, playbooks, core plays, cash chart, heat map, and the NFL is a big week in the NFL. Lots of money up top. So everything will be up for Saturday, for Sunday. Very fun show. We'll be in Discord, Up to Lock show as well. Hit the like button on your way out, but that's going to do it. For Mangone, JT, Helmet behind the sticks, I'm Titletown. Good luck, everybody. Have a good weekend.